Welcome to the Perfect 100, the podcast for BNI members who want to maximize their membership, deepen their impact, and grow their business through intentional networking. I'm your host, Tammy Zurak, a CliftonStrengths coach, longtime BNI leader, and one of the few members worldwide to maintain a perfect Power of One score. Each week, we'll explore the habits, mindsets, and everyday strategies of BNI members who are turning their membership into momentum. Hello and welcome to the Perfect 100 podcast. Today I have a guest. His name is Tim Flesner. Tim, we're going to start with, tell me, how long have you been in BNI and what chapter are you in and what seat do you hold?
Absolutely. So thanks, Tammy. Pleasure to be here with you today. So I am been in BNI since 2016, actually got started on that side of things in a business for revenue cycle management. So going on 7 years now. I've changed industries and businesses, but yeah, 7 years as a part of BNI. I'm currently a member of BNI East Memphis, and I hold the home care service industry.
So you saw value in being in BNI for more than one business, right?
I did, yes.
And same, right? Because I'm on my second business now and have been in for a little past 10 years at this point, and I feel like I built my first business through BNI, and now I'm on my second one, which, great value in doing that. So I'm glad we both are lifers and see the opportunities. All right, so I've got my BNI timer up, and I'm gonna give you 1 minute on the clock to give us your best 60-second weekly presentation. So whenever you're ready.
Again, my name is Tim Flesner. I'm with MidSouth Home Helpers, where we strive to be the premier home care of the Mid-South. And there's many families out there where trusting someone for caring for a loved one is one of the hardest decisions that they will ever make. It's not just about getting help, it's about finding someone they can treat like family. At Home Helpers, we provide non-medical home care. That means personal care, companionship, meal prep, and much more. But what truly matters is that we show heart and we bring that into the home. We listen, we care deeply, and we show up with love, respect every single day. A perfect referral for me is an adult child who says, I just want mom to be safe, happy, and not feel alone. So when you hear that, please remember me, Tim Flesner, at MidSouth Home Helpers, because we're not just home care, we're home care with a heart.
Awesome. And I'm supposed to say with a heart at that point. So a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Transparency is Tim is in my chapter. So I know kind of what he says, and we do the thing at the end where we join in, and you just made it with
Awesome.
with me saying that.
I didn't know if we were going to interact that way, so I went ahead and just put it in there since this is kind of a different format than we're normally in.
Yes, it is. And I wanted to ask or add, since anybody can be listening to this, what area do you serve?
So that's a great question. So we actually are in the Memphis metro area, and we can service, our core base client is really in the Germantown, Collierville, Cordova area, but we do service clients in Atoka, Tennessee. We service clients out in Mumford. We service clients all the way down to Hernando, Mississippi. So we do have that opportunity to service anywhere in the Mid-South.
Awesome, because anywhere, who knows where anybody might be listening from. All right, so this is called the Perfect 100, and the goal of which my intention or hope is that I can help people get to that Perfect 100. And focusing on the activities, it's not just because it's a score. The score is sort of, I don't want to say it's irrelevant because that's the whole name of the podcast, but the relevancy is if you're hitting that Perfect 100, then you're doing all the things that the BNI framework suggests are what are going to make you a successful, it's going to give you success in BNI. And after 40 years, I feel like they've got it pretty dialed in. It works for me. So I want to look at, or want to ask you, I guess, what are the things that are tracked on the Power of One that you feel come naturally to you?
So, it's, of course, one of them is just showing up every week, right? So, that's kind of very important, but that does show a lot of things that based in BNI is having that accountability to show up, which gives me credibility. If I miss a lot, which I have had some absences here lately, but I've always sent a sub, so I make sure that I'm capitalized in that. But, for me, it is all of them really, Tammy. Because when you think about it, showing up every week, right? I mean, things happen. I mean, since owning this home care agency, I've been a solopreneur for 6 years, and now being the last 2 years, I'm really working with partners, and I have a whole team of caregivers that provide care. So, for me, having the accountability to show up every week.
What are you least comfortable with, if there is one?
So I wouldn't say it's least comfortable, but for me, I mean, and it is part of connecting with my peers in the chapter. Um, Referrals is difficult for me, and if I don't stay consistent with the one-to-ones, then I have that tendency of not being able to refer them good quality leads. So I can't say that it's the least, but it's kind of the one that's most obvious to me when I know that I don't do those.
Right. Yes, and that happens, the seasons in your business, right, is no matter who you are, we all have sort of that. It's hard to ride the roller coaster, if you will, is if you're utilizing BNI, you're potentially getting a lot of opportunities, and sometimes that's a common thing for especially newer people, as we flood them with, depending on what they do, some of the positions, let's say it's HVAC and it's summertime, it's really easy to flood them with so many things, and if they don't have enough bodies sort of to manage that, then we push them right out because they're so busy they can't do all the things that make them successful. So have you thought about strategies that you can kind of overcome those types of things to keep you engaged and to keep you in the mix with getting the opportunities to get more referrals for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, as I kind of mentioned, coming from being a solopreneur, corporate industry, to being a solopreneur, to now working with a team, the strategy is making sure that there's people in place to do what the business needs at the time. So similar to what you're kind of saying in regards to BNI operating like a business, I'm learning how to operate my business to make sure that there's consistency.
Yes. And that's such a hard thing. In the past, I've served in most of the roles in BNI inside the chapter. And when I served as president, that was the hardest in terms of balancing. We were trying to grow the chapter. It was coming out of COVID. We had been a chapter of 40 and we were down to 21 coming out of COVID and going back into in person, and trying to manage all the things that I wanted to. My personal goal was to bring the chapter back up to 40. And we did that over the year and a half that I was in that space, but it was so much work to put into that. I was neglecting my own business stuff by not doing as many one-to-ones and not doing the things. So I wasn't a perfect 100 then, trying to figure out what that balance is. So sometimes it can be hard, but I've had to put extra effort into trying to do that now because I'm trying to build a new business with all the things that I know work. So it's been interesting, but we all have that, there's just going to be things that happen. But if we can see them in the future coming at us, and we're going to talk about future in a minute, because I know that's one of your strengths, which we're going to get to. And I also share that with you. I have Futuristic, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So it's interesting to be able to try to figure those things out. So looking back, because you've been in BNI for so long, how has your membership impacted your business revenue, client base, network? What would you say in terms of all of those things?
Yeah. So, my network, again, when I started BNI, solopreneur, right? So it was started working on a business for the revenue cycle management for the healthcare industry. So similar industry, but it was geared towards medical offices. And so getting my visibility out there, it built my network, kind of established my credibility because I was affiliated. I was brand new in the industry, but I was affiliated with a group of partners that vetted me. So it helped from that perspective. Then I transitioned to my solopreneur time of being in development, kind of what you're in now. And now coming from that and into the home care industry, it's hit all of those topics, hit all of those because it's credibility, and then of course creating that visibility along with that credibility. And now my biggest source of revenue comes from BNI.
Awesome. That's amazing. All right, and we're going to look a little deeper into that. So, Leslie, if you'll pull up the Power of One for us. Leslie's our producer for those of you listening. This is a podcast, so you might only be listening to this. It'll be on YouTube, so you can see us and see the Power of One report. So I'll talk through it for those of you only on audio, but we're going to look at it visually on YouTube. So if you want to go and look for those, you can see what we're looking at. So on the screen right now, we have Tim's Power of One, and Tim is green. Yay! So Tim has a total score of 70. And as we go across, for those of you that don't know, to get a perfect 100, you need to have 20 in each of the various categories that go across there. So we have for Tim, Tim has 15 points in attendance, so he's in the yellow there, and he mentioned attendance a minute ago, which we'll come back to. Referrals per week, he's got 20 points, so he's green. Visitors per week, he has 5, so he's gray. And one-to-ones, he has 20 points, he is green. And CEUs per week, he is 10 points in the red for CEUs. This episode is brought to you by Tammy Zurak Coaching. Ready to build your strengths, your business, and your brand? Visit TammyZurak.com and click the button to book your free strategy chat. Let's turn your passion into a thriving success. TammyZurak.com. So looking at that, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you have in consistently? I know perfect 100 is not going to be the goal for everyone, but again, kind of going back to the whole premise of the podcast is if we can get ourselves to 100 or pretty close, green is good. Green is where we all want to be. So whether you're at 70 like Tim or you're somewhere between 70 and 100, all of that is good. You don't have to be a perfect 100. But the way I look at it, because I'm a maximizer, and again, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to try to give myself as many opportunities as possible to receive and give business. So that means to me, if 100 is perfect, that's where I'm headed. So talk to me about looking at your report. Maybe we could zoom in on that one, Leslie, so we can look at just the Power of One. There it is. All right. So looking at that report, what's the biggest challenge for you there?
So I guess I kind of want to put a disclaimer in there, Tammy, because I did hit the perfect 100. So I've been there. But in the recent months with some marketing strategies and things that we're doing and conference and that kind of thing, I've had to miss for presentations and those types of things. So being absent, I've always sent this up, but I know that is weighted. But as I said earlier, it's kind of that consistency. So it is difficult for me. It's not difficult for me to invite, because I've seen such a success in BNI. So typically I'm a good networker. And I think, again, it was neat to see the Gallup's strengths and where I fall in that, because that truly is who I am. I'm a connector. So making that connection and bringing visitors, that's my gray area right now. So that's seeing it here and having everybody else see it is going to hold me accountable to making sure I get visitors within the next couple of months. Because, it's, and I'm sure you can probably explain this, it is over a period of time. I think it's at 6 months that this kind of, okay. So, I'm going to probably be down underneath this, or, it's still in the green. So I'm feeling positive about that, but need to get it back up there, at least be at a 90 if I can't be in the top 100.
Yes. And thank you for being vulnerable and allowing me to share this. 70 is a good score. So there's nothing wrong here that, we're not, even if whoever is a guest is in the gray all the way across, that's okay. Because the goal here is to figure out how can we get more out of what we're doing in BNI. And I've been there. So visitors is a little more challenging. You have to be a lot more intentional to get visitors, which is your low point. But that's pretty much everybody's low point, right? Is when I look at the Power One across the entire region that I can see for us, and I've looked at other regions, it is unanimously the area that we're all the weakest in. And it takes a certain kind of strategy, I guess, to have visitors all the time to where you're going to hit that 20 points. But how many visitors is it per month, Tim?
I think it's at least one,
One,
right?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're at 0.09 over 6 months. So basically, and we can, if we back up a minute to the bigger report that shows the personal palms, that one right there. So we can look at this is it automatically. So anybody can go into Connect, BNI Connect, and pull up your personal palms report. So you can kind of see a breakdown of all of the things that you're doing and getting credit for, so to speak. And this is assuming that you're entering them all. It is entirely dependent on you to make sure you enter all the things, because if you don't enter anything, we have chapters where lots of folks don't enter stuff, and they're gray because they just don't put it in. And the common theme is when I ask, if I'm a chapter success coach, if I ask the chapter president or whoever about that, they'll say, well, they do tons of stuff. We don't want to get rid of them because they're a great member. Okay, they're a great member. They pass stuff, but we don't have any way to track it. So are they a great member? I don't know, because if we want to run it like a business, if you were running, Tim, if you run a business and you have employees, would it be okay with you if your employees just didn't track anything they did? No, probably
not
not,
at all.
right? Why not? Because it's common sense, right? Is you need to know what they're doing. If they don't clock in, clock out, show up, say this is what happened. We really haven't, and we obviously don't clock in and clock out. But this is sort of that premise: is we're entering the stuff that we're doing sort of week to week, not because BNI told us to, but because we want to help people. We can't help those that are underperforming if we don't actually know who actually is and who isn't. Because they're not entering it. And I don't know about you, but it's pretty easy to, enter stuff in the phone. But even for those that are technologically challenged, because that's often one I hear, is we can assign you someone to help you to get the tech, which is really relatively easy. I feel like, what year are we in? 2025. Most people have to do some sort of tech to run their business. So, if we sort of set that culture as we're going to do this, and we teach everybody how, then it should be pretty easy. But I digress. So let's go back to
What
you.
I can, and if we, yeah, no, from that perspective too, Tammy, if you look at it, and again, it's hard for me to see, I didn't print out my personal Power One, but if you don't check your KPIs, right, and then you're not verifying where things are happening, because I think if you look at this, you can see where I did my one-to-ones, usually where they're kind of spiked, my referrals that I'm giving are up
Yes.
after those.
Yeah,
So,
it's weird.
so that consistency. Yeah, right. How does that happen?
It's like cause and effect. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I find that with myself. And again, I've been in for 10 years. So it's just like your own business. If you think about when you're doing your marketing, and we all have this, if you think about your business in the sales funnel, so to speak, I come from 40 years of sales experience. When you're actively seeking to put stuff into the top of the funnel, so these are all the prospects that we're working, so to speak, and eventually they work their way down into customers at the bottom of the funnel. And the same goes for your marketing team, essentially, in BNI. Is the more often you meet with them and you have more in-depth conversations than the less than might be 60 seconds or less that you're getting each week, chances are pretty good you're going to get more out of that than if you don't. So I love that point. And if you look across the board, I might need to put my glasses on to see this. Let me see here. So, there were some interesting points on here. So your referrals given inside the chapter. Well, let's start with absences. Say you were present or had a sub, which is perfect. So we alluded to that on the Power of One. It is a weighted score. So when you have subs, you will not get full points because you're not there, and whoever subs for you generally isn't you to your degree, so to speak, is they're not going to be representing you as well as obviously you do. So they do weight that a little. You'll get dinged a little, but you can still hit pretty high up with a sub. And it's amazing you've had subs for all your absences. Referrals given inside 7, 20 referrals given outside. And now I know the answer to this because I'm in your chapter, but tell everybody here why referrals given outside you have 20.
Well, that's so the referrals given outside is colleagues that they're in touch with, right? So inside is everybody that's inside the chapter, but then outside is, colleagues that I come in contact with in my day-to-day
And
interactions.
so other chapters, right? So you're giving people, you have an amazing network that you've built, and I have the same, that are outside of our chapter. So you're actively giving, which is in the spirit of BNI, which is amazing. And hopefully they're giving back to you, which is also amazing. So we want to, maybe we can think about, as we move it, the next question we'll get to your strengths is, maybe we can figure out how to make those things work for you inside your weekly network. And the referrals received inside, 0. Things that make you say, So this is for those that are looking at this. If you're, obviously you can't see it if you're just listening to the podcast. I pulled up when you go into Connect and you look at your personal palms, it defaults to 6 months. And it matches what the Power of One is, which is an average. The Power of One is an average of 6 months. So when you look at the palms data, Tim hasn't received any referrals according to this inside his own chapter. How's that make you feel, Tim?
So again, I don't have. So how does it make me feel? I kind of feel put on the spot because of my chapter members might be seeing this, but it's I don't have a power partner inside of my chapter that will help me kind of have those referrals.
Yes.
My power partners are outside of my chapter, which is where I get all of my referral business. A lot of my referral.
Yeah, so
business.
the line right next to it says referrals received outside is 24. So that's amazing, and this is 6 months worth. So it is, how many weeks is that? 23 weeks, I think. So in 23 weeks, you've received 24 referrals, which is pretty amazing. I'd feel pretty happy about that myself, right? So, but we want to, for all of us, we would love to have that inside our chapter, because if we had that inside our chapter, unintentionally, we're building value in someone else's chapter, right? Is we're giving that, what will end up being, hopefully, thank you for closed business, to someone else in another chapter, which is in the spirit of giving, which is great because it's going within the BNI system and to a friend that's helping us, so to speak. But we also want to build value in our home network, which is in our own chapter. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So visitors too, we kind of talked about that, and we'll talk about it when we look at your strengths here in a second. One-to-ones, you've done 26 out of 24 weeks, which is, and I included, even though it's a 6-month report, I dropped in the 3 dates in April. So it's actually 3 extra onto the 6 months, 3 extra weeks. So 26, and then thank you for closed business. So again, this is, not everybody knows this. When you see this, thank you for closed business, that is what you gave. That is not what you've received. So Tim has given $30,162 worth of thank you for closed business to people outside the chapter, which again, that's an amazing number. If we rolled some of that back into the home chapter, how would the home chapter feel, and how would you feel?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would love to give that business to my
Right.
chapter members.
And I have transparency again, as Tim's in my chapter, so I know he's actively said that we really need to find the person for our chapter that he's giving business to outside the chapter, who is a medical home health care person. Tim does not do medical, so he's giving, it's kind of we call it up the stream, down the stream, basically, is someone is in the same stream fishing. They're both looking for the same client, but they do medical and he does not. So they're both seeing the same client potentially, and they can feed back and forth to each other. So he really wants, but the medical could be first. And generally speaking, I would aim to say, if somebody's being released into what you're going to be doing next from the hospital or whatever, they probably need that medical first. So that's being arranged, and then Tim can come in behind. So if you think about your own business, whatever it is you do, there's somebody upstream from you that is potentially going to feed you that you want in your own chapter, which we're going to talk about. All right. So, and then last thing is CEUs, which we didn't talk about when we were looking at the Power One scores. You're in the red there with 10 points. So CEUs to me are sort of manageable potentially. Is that something like, how do you do your CEUs?
So, as you can see, I don't a lot. So, um, and this, you mentioned it earlier about the technological challenges. I've always thought I've been pretty tech savvy, but the smartphones, finding the right compatibility with earbuds and those types of things, because I don't have I have an older vehicle, and so there's some compatibility for Bluetooth, but not all of it. I can't listen to podcasts in my car and those types of things without my earbuds, and I don't have found earbuds that are good. So I'm not consistent from that, because here lately, I drive around a lot. I'm going visiting clients, doing assessments, doing check-ins, those types of things. And while I'm doing that, that's something that I could, continuously learn more and get in those CEUs. But I just don't have that technology
Sure.
in place to make it
I
happen.
hear ya. Yeah, and I tend to. I recently, not recently, found Audible. I know Audible's existed for a long time, but I just signed up for it in this year sometime, and I've been consuming books like a crazy person. And how I'm doing it is while I'm showering. I bought a little $10 speaker for my shower, so I can blast it into my shower while that's for me 15 minutes of time I can be listening to something, getting ready for, this doesn't just happen. Not that this is amazing, but it takes time for me to get ready. So while I'm getting ready, all the things that, I do listen to it in my car too, but that makes it easier. But guess what, folks? If you're listening to this right now, this is a CEU for you. And you're going to get the whole hour all in one shot. So it makes it a little easier if you're listening to this wherever you're listening to it.
Since I'm a part of it, does that give me 2 point
Well,
CEUs?
potentially, yes. Because you're your own CEO at this point. Yes.
Staying ahead in a world driven by technology is key. At Wisdom Integrators, we don't just solve problems, we create opportunities. Wisdom Integrators, connecting your world, solving your problems.
It's not the biggest thing, but it will help you if you're trying to move there. And I find it's so crazy that I get ideas when I listen to those things that, I hadn't either forgot about or new things I want to try. And I'm like, oh, and lately, a lot of things about AI and all of that. So some great things that might actually give you more time when you listen to them, because they help you shrink time in doing other things. So, all right. So we are going to move on. We've alluded to it a whole bunch of times now, because I am a Gallup certified CliftonStrengths coach. I have, as being part of this podcast, offered you to take the top 5 assessment. So now let's move forward to that if we could. So on screen, for those of you that can see it, and for those of you that can't, I will read it. We have the Tim's top 5 strengths. So we have ideation is his number 1. Belief is his number 2. Number 3 is woo. And when you hear the word woo, sometimes people think, oh, like we have used that sort of in popular culture as woo woo. It's that funny stuff. Woo means winning others over. And actually, I should probably back up. Ideation is, and I also have scored high in ideation. So ideation is, Tim and myself are both fascinated with ideas. We love being able to come up with things that nobody else thought of, and a whole litany of. And you're probably the same, Tim, as I know. When somebody gives me a problem, I've already got like ding, 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 ding. There's all these little bubbles popping up. Do you find that with yourself?
It's hard for me to stay focused when somebody starts saying this is a problem, because I'm over here trying to fix it.
You've got ideas galore,
like, oh,
right? They just come naturally
yeah.
to you, which is amazing for those of us that have that, because a lot of people do not have that. They don't have it's not that they don't have the ability, it's just that's not their main thing. And when ideas are strong, the hard part can be sort of executing on all the things, because there's so many. Belief is, you have a certain set of core values that are unchanging. You have purpose, and you have decided that everything needs to kind of work towards that purpose. So when you actually, let me go back. Another question is, how did you feel when you saw this report? Did it reflect what you thought about yourself?
Yeah, so, I've been certified in other things. The DISC certification and just further affirms a lot of, that kind of really aligns with some of those things. So, yeah, I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay. And you lose sight of it, right? You don't study it, you don't think about it. You kind of like, you can get discouraged because things aren't happening. But I mean, when I saw these 5 strengths, it's like, oh, yeah, I come up with great ideas and have all of these solutions, but then I have it's my other strengths aren't quite So I need to learn to build people around me
Right.
that
Well,
can help.
and these are your top five. And so your top five can be interchangeable. So we've only offered you the top five as part of this. You can do your full 34 and it will give you more. We tend to, when I did this, and the first time I took this assessment, I think it was 2015, and ideation was my number one back then. Now it's my number 8. And so things change over time, but it doesn't mean you're less strong in, whatever has dropped down. You tend to play back and forth in your top 10 or 12. So, and they could be as, fine hair closeness in like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to your top 5. You just tend to always go to these things as your, it's just what's natural to you. You don't think about it. It just happens. So Woo, I'll go to him's number 3 is Woo, winning others over. He loves, Woo means that you love the challenge of winning people over, especially meeting new people, getting them to, it's great for BNI because, hey, this is this great thing. And Tim, what is your new position in BNI in your chapter?
So I'm now just been, promoted to mentorship coordinator. I was engagement chair, but was moved to mentorship coordinator.
Yeah, and both of those are perfect for that, right?
Yes.
It's you're outgoing in terms of winning, over someone to how you can help them be successful. Same as I am. Although my woo is very low in my makeup, doesn't mean. And again, even if it's low, if you have the report with the full 34, low doesn't mean you're not that thing. It just means it's not your go-to. It's not your main strength. So you can be anything. It's just what you tend to stay in are these top things. Futuristic means there are people that like to look back and there are people that like to look forward, and futuristic's in my top 10 also. Actually, I think it's my top 5. So futuristic means that you are intrigued with what could be, is what it says on the screen there. And we can make it a little bit bigger. Leslie, if you want to, yep. There we go. So you're inspired by the future and what could be. You energize others with your vision of the future. And, I think I do this podcast for that reason, right? Is if we could only give them the tools and show them the light, what could things be, how does that play out for you in BNI?
Well, I think it kind of, you combine the woo and the futuristic together. I love meeting new people. I was actually met with a vendor, actually a chapter member of ours that we've just started. They've started being our payroll processor this past year, and we're looking to transition our accounting over to them. But the payroll guy, they're two separate individuals, salespeople, and the payroll guy that sold us on doing payroll was sitting with the accounting, and he actually told him, he says, if you ever want to meet with somebody that has a lot of connections, you need to go around with Tim, because he's that. So it is that meeting new people, and then, like you said, kind of with the futuristic aspect, sharing, my vision and what I hope to accomplish, and seeing that aspect. We've incorporated it into our chapter of being the kind of the star chapter of the area.
Yes.
So we've grown from when we started in April to where we are now, to our membership by 10?
Yeah, April our chapter started April of last year, and we've grown by 7 in just since January with focus, right? We've been really, building the chapter, building the processes, making sure kind of the foundation pieces are all working together, because you'll find, just like your business, when you focus in one area and not another, things don't go well. If you hire a bunch of new people and you don't give them all the training that they need to be successful, they leave, or they're not handling your business the way you would like them to. But that balance is always the hard part, right? So we've been trying to build over the last year, how do we balance all the things? And sometimes that's putting the right people in the right positions, which having Tim in the mentor coordinator position, if you look at his strengths, sound like the right spot, right? And he's also number 5. His number 5 strength is developer. So he recognizes and cultivates potential in others, and he looks he gets satisfaction out of other people making progress. So perfect if you're a new BNI member, if you have somebody who is mentor coordinating you for that, he wants to be helpful in helping you, move through your journey. Would you say that's true, Tim?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So let's go back to where we showed all of the top 5, if we could, Leslie, thank you. So looking at those top 5, what could you lean into to potentially impact your BNI membership a little more? Because you noted, what were the couple things that you thought you might like to change or one?
So, I guess seeing my number 5 in the strengths, the developer, I've always, even in my corporate world, when I would do training and facilitation, every single session that I started, I would say, I want you to walk away more equipped than you walked in. And so truly, I have a heart to help others and be successful. And so, I guess that's really something I probably need to capitalize on for myself. But then also in the same way, Tammy, right? I guess you talk about our leadership styles and different things like that. If we're not growing in an area, then we can't pull others along with us, right? We have that lid that we hit on. So need to continue to develop myself so that I'll grow. Because there's been a lot of changes in the past 2 years, going on 3 years now, in my life and the business model that I'm now in, as opposed to what I was. So I have to continue to develop myself so that I can continue to develop others. And I think, as you said, this is very enlightening to me, that I can use that in the role that I've been put in now, as far as in the mentor coordinator.
Yes, it's amazing. This seems a common theme, and I have the same problem myself. Is when we look at our strengths, and I like to call them superpowers because they are, is they're just what we, our own. The reason I became certified in this, I've taken DISC, I've taken Myers-Briggs, I've taken, all the things, but this was most impactful to me. I've taken this 3 different times over, 15 years, and every single time I've grown in what I've known about it. And then I hired a coach. The third time I took it, the first 2 times I only did the top 5. The third time I did the full 34 and hired a coach. And when the coach was able to show me all the different things, and walk me through, okay, these are your superpowers and how are you applying them? We're talking specifically about BNI here, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but when you look at the common thing that we all do is we forget to shine the lens on ourselves, right? Is we want to help everyone else. Well, not everybody, but you in particular, that's your thing, right? Is you're a developer is in your top. So you seek to help others and you have belief. And if I were to ask you about your belief, I'm sure it involves helping others, just because I know who you are. So if you applied those, turned that mirror around and said, these are my things, how can I apply them to myself? I do that with coaching, but that's, the short answer is, how can I apply this to BNI? So what are the things I can do for myself? And it's that when you're in an airplane, and they give you that, when the air mask drops, put it on yourself first and then help your neighbors. We all forget that part. We want to, not all of us, but again, most of us, we want to help. And BNI, we have that giver's gain, right? We want others to succeed. So we tend to put the oxygen mask on everybody else. And, here we are having a hard time breathing. So, if you can apply that to yourself, that is a good place to start. And because ideation, I had a few thoughts. Have you used AI at all in your processes for BNI?
So just recently started using it. So I was a little bit skeptical. I thought, it would undermine my, well, maybe that's not the right word, but kind of, oh, well, using artificial intelligence, it's just that. It's artificial intelligence. Let alone for mine, it made me feel inferior or those type of things. So, but I have started kind of taking in conference just a couple weeks ago. They told us about the advancement of it and how we can start capitalizing on it. So yes, I'm leaning more and more into it now.
Okay. So if you were to focus more, sorry, I got a tickle. Let me take a drink. Hang on. I know they can edit that out. Sorry, guys. Okay. So if you were to focus on visibility, right, is we talked a bit about one-to-ones and intentionality of one-to-ones and visibility. And we've talked about that your number one referral partner, well, I know it's your number one referral partner, is outside the chapter, that a lot of what we showed on your personal palms was going to the same person who's outside the chapter. And you've mentioned finding that same person for inside the chapter. Could we be more, apply your ideation, what ideas do you have towards, other than just saying, in your 60 seconds or 45 in our chapter, that you're looking for that person, who else might that benefit inside the chapter?
So yeah, there's definitely other people, because when we think of health and wellness, there's others in our chapter that are in that blanket industry. So not specific to what I offer, but overall health. And so I can definitely see that advantage that, as I'm providing home care agency, and all of the things that I do from personal services, promoting them, my chapter members, to these individuals to help increase their health, right? And those types of things. So, yeah, I'm not sure I answered that.
Yeah, no,
completely like
so I
what
want
were
you
asking,
to, since ideation's your number one, I want you to kind of think about that and what, who else in the chapter would benefit from it. I'm going to give you a few thoughts. I just plugged it into AI because it's easy. And I asked, who would a non-medical home healthcare provider need in their contact sphere to help them? And the answer was elder law attorney, financial planner, which we have, assisted living placement specialist, which I know you've asked for connections to, but maybe we find one, hospice care provider, geriatric care manager, pharmacist, mobility equipment provider, so medical equipment sales or rentals, primary care physician, especially geriatric. I know doctors are hard, private duty nurse or staffing agency. So any one of those, and I know in particular, I would also like to connect with somebody who's working in any of those spaces, is talking when you're doing your one-to-ones, is asking those questions like who, would this be a benefit to you? And what if we all went after them together, right? Is if we identified a few open seats, because we have a growth thing in our chapter, right? We've added already 7 people since January, and we want to add more. So what if we work together to figure out, we can apply both of our ideations to how can we find these people for our chapter. And then I actually took it another step, because you can ask AI, who in this area is available, that you're like, what businesses are those types of services are in our area. And I did a 25-mile search of where we meet for our chapter. And it gave me, it's not always perfect. It gave me other people that do what you do, but that also could be a potential source, right? Is if you have people who, we all benefit if we all do, sometimes working with a competitor can help you grow too, because maybe they are overwhelmed or you need their help, whatever that looks like. So sometimes meeting with them can help you find those people too, if they're of the right mindset, that it's not competition, that it's, all the rising tide raises all ships. That's harder to find, but you could, one of the things that came up was we have a nonprofit in our chapter that is affiliated with a hospital, and that same hospital does home care. So what if that person, that whoever the home care unit is, could potentially be, and maybe you've already worked that, but I just thought that was an interesting one.
oh, that's good.
And there was one more that came up. Functional independence. There were a number. We can talk about these later, but pull these in your AI, everyone. So, go in and say, who do I need in my contact sphere? You can upload, literally just copy and paste off of your local chapter site. Here's everybody I have in my chapter, and who do I need that's missing for my business? And they'll give you a list, and then you can ask it to go, if you have the one that searches the internet, you can, or find somebody who does like me, you can ask them to find those types of businesses. It'll give you their their name, their phone number, their website, all the things you can go and research. And if you work on it as a team, you can break that up into your, the financial advisor, the whoever in the chapter. Hey, who could benefit from this? And, let's break it up into 2 or 3 each. Make it bite-sized pieces. So just some food for
That's good.
thought.
Yeah, that's good insight.
Okay, awesome.
Very good insight.
So we are running close on time, so I will ask you one more question. What advice would you give to a new BNI member who wants to start a strong network and work towards the perfect 100?
So I think, and it's evident because when you shared my Power of One and my poems, and we talked about it during this time, it is the consistency. Um, Understand what's available to you as an individual, capitalize on it, and be consistent with your weekly goals. Whatever they put in place, right? It sounds kind of, it's legal. We have to make sure that we do this 1-to-1 per month and bring a visitor per month and have, one referral per month. Those things put in place can seem very, if you look at it from a legalistic standpoint, that, oh, that's very daunting. But if you look at it and look at the outcome of it, it definitely proves advantageous and beneficial to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Leaning into your superpowers, what is the one thing for you that you got out of this that you would like to take into the future with you?
I guess trying to look at my 5 core beliefs, or not beliefs, but my strengths. I would take into that from a perspective of sometimes when we have that ideation, or we kind of look at other aspects or think long term, it's always like you need to get back here into reality. It's not a bad thing to have good ideas, right? I mean, and you just need people in place to help you put it in practice. I all the time, it's like, oh, well, what if we could do this, and what if we could do that, and those types of things. And that's, it goes with my other certifications or ideas that I've gotten from DISC, dominance, we're visionaries. And so, but that's not such a bad thing. You just got to surround yourself with people that can help kind of pick up the pieces as you storm through.
Yeah, that is it's an amazing point. The blind spot for ideation is too many ideas, and you overwhelm people. But the cool thing about BNI is there's all different kinds of people, right? And if you work together, you can help others that have the ability to get things done, can help us both temper the ideas, find the right ones, and then move them into action. So we'll leave it right there. Thank you so much for coming into the Perfect 100 podcast today, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me, Tammy. It was great.